You'll see these undervalued players sometimes pop off in value and production throughout the fantasy football season. Some of these guys are off the waiver wire. Some of these guys were drafted in the last few rounds of your fantasy draft. We got a lot of upside in this year's draft. When you look at these rookies, when you look at the situations on some of these depth charts, one thing we're looking at is these explosive offenses because they can pack on the pace, run a lot of plays, move the ball. And on any given Sunday, the wide receiver 3 or 4 can give you double-digit fantasy points because their offense is that potent. The one offense we've been watching all offseason has been the Kansas City Chiefs offense. They got a bunch of young wide receivers there fighting for snaps, fighting for reps. Travis Kelce's going to start the season injured. We'll see if he's playing tonight. But we got to watch these young wide receivers because any one of them can pop off, and it could be game to game. It could be one guy for the whole season, but we need to pay attention to these guys. And the guy we're looking at today is Rashee Rice, second-round wide receiver from this year's draft. Has a lot of potential, has a lot of upside, looked good in training camp, has a great highlight package. But before we dig into the stats and really do the deep dive, you have to click that subscribe button right now. Stop missing out on this information, on these waiver wire players, these deep stashes, guys to trade for, lineup advice, and everything else to help you win your league because it's necessary for you to make these informed decisions. We cover all these deep players to help you know who to get, who you want, and just get more information on these players. Rice should have been drafted, but you know what? Maybe in some leagues he's sitting there floating on the waiver wire, depending how shallow or deep your league is. I speak for everybody, but we're going to look into the numbers, so hit that subscribe button and don't miss out. So let's look at this. Let's look at his production here at SMU. He blew up last year. 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, and everybody was talking about him throughout the season last year as he was making play after play after play. The year prior, 2021, 64 balls caught, 682 yards, was used a little bit more on the shallow routes. Really exploded more last year because he got more deep balls, was able to show off his ball skills, and really brought it home. 25 touchdowns on his career, 3,000 receiving yards on his career. So he's a G5 prospect who has been very productive. Looking at the stats here, the advanced metrics last year, 3.05 yards per route ran and 11 ADOT. That means he was getting targeted consistently deep downfield, and getting those deep targets is huge for a player like this because this is an explosive offense. And if Mahomes wants to go deep, this is a guy they're probably going to be looking at because he's also got the ball skills. 593 yards after the catch, 6.2 yards after the catch per reception, 6.7 on his career. You get less yak on the deep balls. That's common sense. A lot of the yak comes on those quick plays, those quick screens, those quick throws over the middle, on the slants, all that stuff. The deep balls, it's thrown up there, and you're doing the jump ball for it, and it's limited opportunities for the yak. But with that being said, we kind of got a good idea just by looking at his collegiate profile, watching the highlights and the film, that he has a role in this offense once he gets himself established, playing on the perimeter, beating guys deep, Mahomes chalking it up, something they kind of need in this offense. They also got Justin Ross who can do that as well. But they already said that both those two players are going to be packaged players and they're going to be working for opportunity throughout the season, as we've noted before in other videos. Looking at his draft profile here, drafted in the late second round, good draft capital. Good draft capital going to a good team, grand situation. There might be a developmental period here, though. That's the thing about Rice. It might take him a little bit of time. We saw that with Sky Moore last year. He is a G5 player going up to the NFL game. There might be needed some extra time for him to develop, but there might not be either. It's a wild card. It's a lottery ticket. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds, 23 years old, and he wins in different ways compared to some of the other wide receivers on the offense. And looking at his athletic metrics here, 4.51 40-yard dash, more than fast enough to get the job done. Decent speed score, about 50th percentile, 57th to be exact. So he's there, a little bit better than average. Good burst score, good agility score, 50th percentile, good catch radius. Everything's looking good. Breakout age is average, and he has a good college target share of 33.2%, which is elite. He was the cog of the offense and a good dominator rating last year of 32.9%, which is a percentage share of the touchdowns and yardage in SMU's offense. All in all, steady profile, pretty good, pretty productive at the G5 level. More than enough athleticism to get the job done. Good enough size. Everything's good enough. Should be able to compete at the NFL level. The draft capital says, hey, he's got a shot here. He's in a good offense. We got some good volume. All good things to see. And then look at the depth chart. Is it stacked? Is it not? I look at this as being very ambiguous. You got Kadarius Toney in and out with injuries. Sky Moore's going to be the slot guy. He is trending up. Marcus Valdes-Scantling is an incumbent veteran. Justin Watson's a sneaky player because he's highly athletic with deep speed, and he just gets on the field. Richie James is a guy you want to look out for. Justin Ross is the underdog story, but he has immense upside if he can tap into it. Rice can work his way in because it's very ambiguous. It's not like we have any super studs here. We do not. So sometime during the season, he might get his opportunity, or it might be soon with Kelce if he's out. Maybe he's out for a few weeks and they got to rely more on the passing game with the receivers and spread things out. Maybe they toss him more to the running backs. But the thing is, he's a lottery ticket right now. And you want lottery tickets on offenses like this because you don't know who's really going to go off. And I suspect, and I've been saying this all along, that I feel like Mahomes is so good, it doesn't matter who's out there. And it could be a Sky Moore game, it could be an MVS game, a Kadarius Toney game, Justin Watson game maybe, a Justin Ross, Rashee Rice, whoever's out there running routes, getting snaps. You probably want them on some teams. You probably want to make that cheap investment on some of the back-end guys and hope for the best, because the upside could go nuclear in certain matchups. He was a deep draft target. People were drafting him in double-digit rounds. That being said, in home leagues, especially in basic leagues, he could have went undrafted. Also, in more skilled leagues, he was getting drafted due to the upside of this offense, due to taking shots on him. Sharper leagues would be drafting him around this range as a speculative asset in an impactful offense, and that makes sense. You need him because you want to chip with this offense. You need to be investing in these offenses, especially on the back end of your roster. If he's on waivers and you're not liking what you got on the back end of your roster, maybe so. However, right now, your depth chart's probably set. You're probably good at running back. You probably got enough receivers. And if he's there, then you may not be able to pick him up, but you might be able to as well. However, he should have got drafted in your draft because he's a cheap lottery ticket with a ton of upside. And if he hits early, like if he's one of those young players who exceeds expectations in this glorious offense, then he's going to be scoring a lot of fantasy points. And if he doesn't, you can turn and burn him because he's so cheap. That's what we liked about him. He's so cheap that he can't bust on you. But you don't need him because you went running back in that position, and you want the waiver wire for running backs. You want to load up at running backs, flip and turn and burn them. You load it up at wide receiver early in your draft. You don't trust rookies. You don't want to wait on rookies. You don't want to be patient. You really just want to go with the veterans there, especially at the wide receiver position, and then take shots at running back, which makes sense. There could be a ramp-up time. This could be delayed. This could not happen this year, maybe next year or the year after, or not at all. He is a G5 prospect going up to the NFL level, but process-wise, what it says is we should invest in these ancillary parts of these highly explosive offenses because you never know what's going to happen, and if it doesn't work out, work the waiver wire, turn and burn it, and keep loading up at tickets on the back end of your roster just in case. And you really want that drag on the back end of your roster, not a roster clogger, so you can be active on the waiver wire so you can capitalize if one of those upside players hits on the waiver wire, and you can just go get them without thinking and project out to the future and see what happens. Maybe like a Jameson Williams or something like that. And if it doesn't work out, you move on to the next player and play hot potato till something hits. And if nothing hits, well, it's your last player on your roster Who cares? That player's not supposed to be your best player anyways. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know strategy. If you like Rice, if you have him, if you like Ross Moore, Sky Moore, whoever you like in this offense, I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Catch you on the next video.